Transmigrated as a disabled protagonist, how should I continue the script? Chapter 33, Parallel World. After Sawada Tsunayoshi defeated Rokudo Mukuro, he was stunned to realize, "You're saying Futa isn't here?" With a brief whoosh, the orange flame on his head extinguished. Suna's Danmei nature was fully exposed. Rokudo Mukuro, covering his eye of the 6 paths of reincarnation that had been purified by the sky flame, struggled but still found the strength to taunt. "You could figure out that Futa was with me, yet you don't know about the chaos at Suribachi Street a few days ago? At that time, I was unconscious, saved by a passing doctor, but at the clinic, I never saw a trace of that child." Reborn, standing to the side, sharply asked, "Clinic? Whose clinic?" Rokudo Mukuro, exhausted, replied, "A clinic near Suribachi Street, a doctor's clinic with the surname Mori. He calls himself a barefoot doctor, but he probably has nothing to do with this matter." Reborn. Mori? And a doctor profession. The barefoot doctor you claim has no relation could very well be the main culprit. Reborn stopped asking further, went to a corner, and took out his phone to contact someone. "Mori-san, is Futa with you?" As a result, he received a positive response, along with some overly polite remarks, implying that the Vongala family would have to pay a hefty price for information for this informant. Reborn, with no authority, coldly tossed over Sawada Tsunayoshi's father's phone number. Let this kind of internal strife be handled by the external advisor. Lying on the ground, Rokudo Mukuro suddenly sensed something. Forcing his body to rise, he urged his 2 defeated companions through the mental pact. "Ken, Chikusa. Run. The Vindichi are coming." Outside, Nakahara-chuya, Dazai Osamu, and Yakamura happened to run into the Vindichi. The 3 apprehended convicts, the Vindichi prison members, were dressed in pitch-black cloaks, their tall figures holding chains. Their faces were wrapped in bandages, making their eerie appearance deeply unsettling, which somehow piqued Dazai Osamu's peculiar taste. "This profession. It looks really intense." Nakahara-chuya, with nerves tense and ready for battle, spoke in a heartbeat-steadying voice. "Who are you?" No need for him to restrain it, Yakamura took the lead, revealing a ferocious killing intent, standing in front of the 2. What he saw was no longer something that could be considered human, with a black flame burning wildly, extremely twisted, constantly producing force. This was a human who had fallen into the wicked path of evil. "We are Vindichi, here to capture a few fugitives who escaped from prison." The leader of this Vindichi group spoke in a heavy, cold, and strange voice, genuine Japanese. "Please step aside." The second Vindichi spoke. "Otherwise, you will be considered as enemies of the Vindichi prison." The third Vindichi slowly continued, and the atmosphere instantly grew tense to the point where it could explode at any moment. "Monsters." Yakimaru's face remained indifferent as he identified the 3's true nature. "Slaughter." Not deceived by lies, Yakimaru intended to touch his own arm, but his left hand was caught by Dazai Osamu, and his right arm was restrained by Nakahara-chuya. The 2 acted in perfect sync at the crucial moment, firmly suppressing Yakimaru, not wanting to be inexplicably dragged into a foreign powers operation to capture Rokudo Mukuro. Dazai Osamu silently thought, "Rokudo Mukuro has no chance of winning." Nakahara-chuya crazily yelled, "Yakimaru, I don't want to clean up others' mess again." Being restrained, Yakimaru's killing intent subsided by more than half. The mask on his face looked at Dazai Osamu on the left, then at Nakahara-chuya on the right, as if complaining, "Why are you stopping me from hitting the bad guys?" The 2 youths carried the Yakimaru, who is taller than both of them, repositioned him away from the path. Dazai Osamu smiled and said, "Please." The 3 Vindichi seemed to ignore this ridiculous scene, pausing briefly then continued to capture Rokudo Mukuro. However, what truly caused their downfall was that the edge of their coats happened to brush against Dazai Osamu's. This seemingly unintentional contact left all 3 Vindichi as if struck by lightning, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. Nakahara-chuya grumbled, "What did you do to them?" Dazai Osamu innocently glanced at the retreating Vindichi group, a faint smile playing at the corner of his lips. He casually toyed with Yakimaru's knuckles. I just helped teach them a lesson for you. Because of the unwillingness to die, the flame of night grew stronger, but upon encountering the supernatural force, no longer human, it successfully sensed the breath of death at that exact second, feeling suffocated. Yakimaru saw with his own eyes the process and thought it was Dororo who purified them. How impressive! The evil spirits almost ascended to heaven. Harukawa, who had come in arrogance, left in shame. After taking a breath outside, he turned back as if choked by a mouthful of dog food, watching the endlessly muddy Dazai Osamu before him as he sought encouragement from Yakimaru. If you have the ability then let go, so why make things difficult for a mute person? Harukawa intentionally muttering under his breath, the mute Yakimaru actually responded. Dororo is like a shrine maiden. Yakimaru grabbed Dazai Osamu's hands, lifted them, and gently placed them on his own forehead. Although Dororo couldn't purify the deep crimson glow within him, it could still soothe his soul. It is said that only the purest individuals possess the power of purification, able to dispel demons and guide people toward goodness. No, you just acted out a wrong scene from Inuyasha Next Door. Pfft, I will protect you. Dazai Osamu took 3 seconds to react, then drew a good luck charm on his forehead with a blessing gesture. After finishing, Dazai Osamu spoke mysteriously, Yakimaru will live a long and healthy life, outliving me, and forcibly remove all those you think are bad people. Harukawa's forehead twitched, sensing that this guy had some hidden meaning, as if aiming at those he had killed himself. I've been cleared of my crimes by Yakimaru. Wait, it's cleared. Right? Harukawa, unsure, anxiously went to check on Yakimaru, but unfortunately, the other couldn't tell him anything for the time being. When the three of them arrived at the battle site, Rokudo Mukuro had his neck chained tightly by the Vindichi and was dragged out like a dead dog. He immediately stopped struggling, his hands hanging down. The 6 paths of reincarnation darkened with blood, even the sky flame couldn't cleanse. He unintentionally glanced at Yakimaru as he lowered his gaze. A rapid yet weak voice appeared in Yakimaru's mind, it was the voice of someone still alive. Save them. Rescue Ken and Chikusa. If you want to keep your skin and tongue, then listen to me. I'll sustain your illusion inside the prison. With my ability, there will be a chance in the future to restore your 5 senses. Rokudo Mukuro found a sliver of life within a dead end through the contract on his body. In Suribachi Street, rumors spread that Yakimaru, who defeated Harukawa, had an undeniable hope of victory over the Vindichi. He had no intention of placing his hope on anyone else. He clearly understood that if he was captured, the Vindichi's pursuit of the other 2 would ease, as he was their primary target. Yakimaru had so many things he wanted to say, his heart raced, and the thoughts that stuck in his chest turned into a chaotic mess. Slow down the pace a bit. I can't understand what you're saying. You, don't tell me you don't understand Japanese? Rokudo Mukuro cursed to himself. Without much time to think, Rokudo Mukuro gritted his teeth and tried to take over the other person's body, but something even more terrifying happened, he couldn't possess Yakimaru. It was as if there was an invisible wall surrounding him, solid and unbreakable, blocking him entirely. The wall owner Dazai Osamu hid the fame deep down. Dazai Osamu pressed his ear, tilting his head to listen to the sound of Yakimaru's heartbeat, his gaze narrowing. Could the illusionist surpass himself to connect with Yakimaru? Mental connection. Upon discovering this abnormality, Dazai Osamu lightly hooked Yakimaru's fingertip, once again tightening the grip, causing Rokudo Mukuro's voice to suddenly disappear completely from Yakimaru's mental world. Yakimaru sensed the emptiness in his mental world, unable to hear any sound from outsiders anymore. This is definitely not Dororo's voice. If I can't understand, then forget it. He didn't overthink it, simply retreating into himself, as after all, Dororo was holding his hand. He thought to himself, a girl's hand must be both soft and warm, as beautiful as the pure white life flame. Rokudo Mukuro, with a pale expression, was dragged down by the Vindichi, not venting his frustration on Yakimaru. He only felt that he had been blind, choosing two terrible companions. One would go berserk, and the other lacked all five senses. Even the Vongala group seemed more reliable, at least those people could manage a civil war. The scene was left with only the Vongala family members, and Sawada Tsunayoshi sat on the ground, feeling a sense of relief. For the first time, facing someone as tragic and evil as Rokudo Mukuro, his emotions were complicated. Reborn. How long will Rokudo Mukuro be imprisoned? That Vindichi prison. Before Sawada Tsunayoshi could finish speaking, he made an ah sound, and watches a group of strangers appeared at the entrance. Who are you all? The three boys, who seemed to be the same age as him, had different expressions on their faces. Hyper-intuition told him, the person arriving now is absolutely not ordinary. Just now, the Vindichi group deliberately avoided these three people, which doesn't resemble the heartless description Reborn had just given. Nakahara Chuya, too lazy to socialize, glanced at Dazai Osamu. Dazai Osamu thought for a moment and stepped forward to speak. Welcome to Yokohama. The boy with sharp eyes and bandaged pupils smiled. I am Dazai Osamu, a student of the Port Mafia boss, here to discuss the matter of exchanging ranking futa with your esteemed organization. This identity is both light and heavy, and the excuse isn't completely unreasonable. Reborn carefully assessed Dazai Osamu, and unexpectedly discovered that this boy, not much different from Danmei Suna, did not show a trace of nervousness. Is this point worth thinking about? Absolutely, everyone in the world knows the reputation of the Vongala family. Reborn thought to himself, Danmei Suna, learn from others. Stop breaking out in cold sweat, people might think you were exhausted after defeating Rokudo Mukuro. Show a bit of the Vongala Decimo spirit. Sawada, exhausted, Tsunayoshi wiped away cold sweat and said fearfully, what is the Port Mafia? Dazai Osamu glanced at him, recognizing him as the one who defeated Rokudo Mukuro, and smiled enthusiastically. It is a local, legal, tax-paying private enterprise. Reborn kicked Sawada Tsunayoshi, not allowing him to be deceived, and said, Danmei Suna, I already told you about the local situation before, and you dare to forget what I said? Sawada Tsunayoshi cried out in pain, you said so much, how could I possibly remember it all? Is that so? Reborn snorted coldly. Very good. The Vongala Decimo's heir has been found. Dazai Osamu's eyes flickered swiftly, observing how Sawada Tsunayoshi was mercilessly scolded by his tutor. No matter how much money people of this world spent, they could never hire the world's top assassin as a teacher. Port Mafia, he is the Vongala Decimo's heir. Reborn did not make any cryptic remarks, standing on Sawada Tsunayoshi's shoulder, his tiny figure carrying great weight. Regarding Futa's matter, I've already entrusted the external advisor to contact you. Haven't you received the latest news yet? Dazai Osamu took out his phone and, after glancing at it, replied. I've received it. Mori-san said to host you all, and then you will be able to see ranking Futa. Reborn, not needing external forces to host him, declined. However, Dazai Osamu said, ranking Futa has agreed to rank for the Port Mafia 3 times. And these 3 opportunities were something Dazai Osamu fought for, with Mori Ogai agreeing to give him one chance for a ranking. Reborn furrowed his brow, as expected, he would need to be there himself. That boss Mori was a cunning old fox, and if Futa ranked something he shouldn't, things could get out of hand. The old fox sent, a little fox, huh? Yokohama, in fact, had more talents compared to other organizations. The baby in suit coldly agreed. Alright. Sitting on the ground, Sawada Tsunayoshi was completely confused throughout the process, not daring to say a word, rubbing his head that was aching from being kicked. Immediately after, he reacted a beat too late and screamed, his whole body racked with extreme pain from overexertion. It hurts. A few others from the Vongala family laughed without any sense of sympathy, but the silver-haired boy quickly ran over, showing concern for Sawada Tsunayoshi, though he couldn't do anything to relieve the pain. This evening, the Vongala family members were arranged by the Port Mafia to be hosted at a hotel in name. Dazai Osamu wisely did not go to bother them. Isn't it fun raising Yakimaru and play around with Chuya, so why rushing to interact with these strangers? The next day, the playful sounds of Lambo and Ipin, the two little children, appeared in the hotel lobby, attracting the attention of other guests. Sawada Tsunayoshi felt a bit uneasy. Honestly, he had never stayed at a 5-star hotel before. Oh, he was just a child from an ordinary family, completely unable to adapt to such high-class treatment. Reborn, should we stop them or not? Sawada Tsunayoshi, afraid of being looked down upon, asked. You decide. Reborn, as thick-skinned as ever, replied. Sawada Tsunayoshi shrank back, deciding to act as if he didn't see anything. He had no intention of getting caught in the crossfire between Lambo and Ipin. Neither of the 5-year-olds was easy to deal with. Futa, with a calm expression, sat alone on the sofa, even quieter than Sawada Tsunayoshi. Last night, he was returned by the Port Mafia, reporting the situation all night. He repeatedly assured that he didn't reveal too much of the Vongala family's intelligence, which allowed him to avoid punishment from the family. Tsunani, I don't want to stay here either. Unfortunately, the only one who could be absent was the uncontrollable, arrogant Hibari Kyoya, who went out to find someone to fight. The hotel lobby managers were quick-witted and promptly handled the other guests' matters. By the time it was past 10 in the morning, no more guests had checked into the lobby. Two young men approached, one in front of the other, with a peculiar style, holding hands affectionately. At such an age, coupled with their outstanding appearance concealed due to injuries, the two had bandages wrapped around them like a joke, making it hard for anyone to imagine that beneath those bandages were self-inflicted scars and bodies without skin or flesh. When walking on the street, they always made others think they had a close relationship, envious of the bond formed from growing up together since childhood. In reality, they hadn't even known each other for half a year. Dazai Osamu arrived at the destination and greeted the members of the Vongala family. Good morning. As soon as the words left his mouth, the hall erupted with Lambo's loud laughter. Outsider, Lambo-sama has heard of you all, something about Port Mafia, right? Lambo-sama wants to prove he's the strongest. The little cow-suited child, bouncing around with explosive enthusiasm, grabbed a grenade toy, ready to throw it at them. In the next second, Lambo clearly saw the faces of Dazai Osamu and Yakimaru, his pupils instantly dilating. He burst into tears. Wah, the bandaged monster is back. Suna, help. The monster from 3 years ago is back, and Lambo-sama can't beat him. Almost wetting his pants, the little cow disguised as a child rushed as fast as possible toward the one person who could protect him, Sawada Tsunayoshi. Sawada Tsunayoshi wasn't sure whether he should be happy or cry. Lambo, you only remember me at times like this. Reborn's eyebrow twitched. A monster from 3 years ago. Lambo was lively and mischievous, not many things could scare him. This little brat was an assassin raised by the small Italian mafia Bovino family, always carrying the 10-year bazooka. He was also the future lightning guardian officially appointed by the Vongala family, and even in his childish words, he hid a lot of information. Suna, save me. 3 years ago, a monster came, and Lambo-sama couldn't defeat him. Almost immediately, the thought of how 3 years ago Lambo was only 2 years old, to be able to have a 2-year-old mafia child remember. Either it's someone from a past connection, or someone from the future. There was no pretense on Dazai Osamu's face of surprise. He had similarly caught onto the key phrase, 3 years ago. However, he had never left the country, much less known any members of a mafia family far away in Italy. Vongala Decimo, this child, Dazai Osamu pointed at the child behind Sawada Tsunayoshi. Haha, just call me Sawada Tsunayoshi, Sawada Tsunayoshi said, sweating coldly from his forehead as he faced Dazai Osamu. He didn't feel any friendliness, only a strange sense of distance, coupled with an unease of dealing with someone not easily provoked. He quickly pulled Lambo to the front, feeling Lambo trembling in his hands. Lambo? Don't casually give others nicknames like that. However, Lambo's fear was genuine. The trauma of his childhood appeared before his eyes, and this time, it was so sudden and unexpected that it was overwhelming. Dazai Osamu's smile gradually faded. Even Sawada Tsunayoshi could sense that something was wrong from Lambo's fear, because the person Lambo was afraid of wasn't Dazai Osamu, but rather the boy in the yukata standing beside him. That boy was truly a beautiful youth, his face not tightly wrapped in bandages, looking serene yet expressionless. Following Dazai Osamu like a delicate puppet, he didn't evoke a sense of terror in others. Is the bandaged monster you mentioned referring to Yakimaru? Dazai Osamu, bringing Yakimaru along, walked towards Sawada Tsunayoshi, while Lambo's miserable screams grew even louder. Sawada Tsunayoshi's scalp tingled. Lambo, these are two people, not monsters. Reborn cut him off. Keep watching. Sawada Tsunayoshi, who hadn't yet cleared the darkness from his bright eyes, looked at Yakimaru, and at first glance, he inexplicably felt a sense of goodwill toward him. More than half of his conflicted emotions toward strangers disappeared. Reborn calmly observed Sawada Tsunayoshi's demeanor, thinking that his hyper-intuition, inherited from his ancestors, could avoid danger and seek fortune. Yet Lambo's tears unexpectedly swells up. Not human, Suna. This bandaged monster doesn't even have a face. It's scarier by countless times compared to the anatomical models at home. How can someone like that still be alive? Monster, go away. Lambo-sama will never give up. Even though he was trembling in fear, Lambo still dared to shout at Yakimaru. Dazai Osamu, deep in thought, murmured, "This is interesting." Color changing. Yakimaru focused his spiritual eye on Sawada Tsunayoshi, puzzled by the opponent's warm white life flame. Where was the orange glow before? He reached forward, following the instinct of seeking beauty before conscious thought, hoping to ignite another color in the darkness. Sawada Tsunayoshi, ah. Sawada Tsunayoshi blinked his golden brown eyes. You want to see another color? The brown-haired boy scratched his face with his finger, speaking shyly, without a dying will bullet, I can't use the dying will flame. Touching my forehead won't help either. Dazai Osamu was startled. Was this guy talking to Yakimaru? Do not hurt the Decimo. Gokudera, he's just being friendly with Suna. Suna doesn't seem to object. Yakimaru, about to touch Sawada Tsunayoshi's hand, stopped mid-air. Gokudera's dissatisfied voice and Yamamoto Takeshi's cheerful reconciling tone were both isolated outside the realm of the spiritual world. What is this? His eyes shifted downwards, and within another small life flame, he discovered a pale pink glow. Pale pink. A special item? Yakimaru's hand tilted to one side, and he reached out to touch Lambo's head. Lambo turned to stone. Yakimaru. Dazai Osamu stepped forward, afraid that this reckless child might hurt his hand. But the previously terrified Lambo suddenly calmed down, tears welling in his eyes as he looked at Yakimaru. With trembling hands, he searched through the hair and pulled out a light pink bazooka, offering it to the other. For you. Someone told me to give you. Yakimaru was captivated by the beautiful appearance and continued toward this unknown, peculiar object. 3 years ago. While Lambo was playing at home, he accidentally broke a 10-year bazooka. He was then transported to the world 10 years into the future, where he saw a person lying on the bed, missing all facial features, skin, and with crippled limbs. The other had long, disheveled hair, and right before his eyes, the body was being assembled into the appearance of a normal person. This scene haunted Lambo as a nightmare for 3 years, and to this day, he still cannot forget it. He was so terrified that he continuously backed away, pressing against the wall, not daring to raise his head, while he clearly remembered a low, tired voice by his ear. Lambo, the next time you see him, give him the cannon. This is the deal. If you don't do it, for the rest of your life, you'll live in this endless nightmare. It was truly frightening. Lambo-sama couldn't admit that this was a human being. No human could look so hideous. It's just a cannon, isn't it? If you're not afraid of dying, go ahead and use it. When the pink bazooka left his hand, Lambo once again retreated into Sawada Tsunayoshi's embrace, covering his ears, closing his eyes, and muttering softly, "The nightmare is gone, I've completed the deal." The pink bazooka in Yakimaru's hands suddenly exploded. Pink smoke enveloped him. With no longer human as his support, Dazai Osamu suddenly couldn't smile anymore, his hand grasping at nothing. "What is this? 10-year bazooka?" Reborn was extremely displeased, staring at Yakimaru as the figure reappeared once again after disappearing in the pale pink mist. This bazooka allows a person to exchange places with their self 10 years in the future for 5 minutes, but due to some unexpected circumstances, it has been classified as a prohibited item and is no longer in production. Anyone familiar with the 10-year bazooka knows they can't set their sights on it, as it cannot fulfill any wish to change the past. Using the 10-year bazooka to change the past? That is an impossible plan. The past cannot be changed. 10-year bazooka passed Vangala family's testing and measurement. It didn't go through a time axis, but rather a parallel space. In other words, the exchange target of the bazooka came from a parallel world 10 years later. The pale pink smoke dissipated. A long-haired young man appeared within the smoke, his figure much taller and thinner than the original, and his appearance had already matured into adulthood. Through the mist, he had a pair of indifferent gray-brown eyes, slightly raised at the corners, with facial features faintly showing much maturity. Those eyes held a human-like expression, but soon tears began to stream out. "You are Dororo, huh?" Chapter 33 End.